From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Olumide Macaulay.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 calls for caution ahead of reopening of schools. Lagos schools reopen for exit class students after 5 months of lockdown. Other states begin preparations. Mother of 27-year-old girl killed in Lagos by an unlatched container-laden truck seeks justice. And the World Health Organization warns there may never be a vaccine against coronavirus. Plus, business and news from Abuja, the FCT, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, South African retail chain store ShopRite announces plan to sell majority stake in its Nigerian subsidiary.
On sports news tonight, World Football Governing Body FIFA criticizes Swiss authorities over legal proceedings against Gianni Infantino.
And from Abuja, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to rearraign former Minister of Justice Mohammed Adoke on amended 400 million naira money laundering charges.
Caution and strict compliance with guidelines are the watchwords from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to Nigerians today, particularly the final class students who are returning to school tomorrow. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, explains that the call has become necessary owing to the fact that the reopening of schools could be a veritable source for increased community transmission of coronavirus. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health says testing for COVID-19 increased by 40,000 in the month of July, as the number of confirmed cases also dropped by 2,000 compared with the figures in the previous month.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 announced August the 4th, 2020 for the reopening of schools for students in their exit classes when it briefed the nation last week. It's less than 24 hours to that resumption date. And the PTF at this briefing is concerned about the need for safe reopening as it fears a possible spike in the number of cases as students return to classes.
I wish to reinstate that the education sector is critical for the development of our children and our nation. Reopening the sector is also a source of concern based on the fact that the school system remains a veritable ground for increasing community transmission if appropriate protocols are not put in place. The Presidential Task Force wishes to implore stakeholders to ensure that the agreed protocols are put in place and measures strictly adhered to.
The number of positive cases for COVID-19 is on the rise in Nigeria, as the country records a spike from a little over 10,000 cases as at the end of May this year to over 43,000 confirmed cases by the end of July. The government says it's working to reduce infection and fatality.
Our objective is to reduce case fatalities to less than 1% from the present just over 2%. And we are working on innovative interventions with prospects of improving survival chances, especially for the elderly and those with comorbidities.
The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control also speaks on government's efforts to ensure access to vaccines when they come on stream.
Through a structure called the ACT Accelerator, a mechanism through which CEPI is working with WHO and Gavi to ensure that vaccines are available to countries regardless of their ability to pay.
It's been 5 months since Nigeria recorded her index case of COVID-19. Several measures, including a lockdown, was employed by the government to stop the spread of the virus. But will another lockdown be necessary in the face of rising cases?
We have to reopen safely. We cannot risk another shutdown. nor can we risk having more lives being lost.
As the task force prepares to submit its sixth interim report to President Muhammadu Buhari later this week, many look forward to the recommendations that the task force will be making to drive the national response toward flattening the curve.
Meanwhile, schools in Lagos State reopened today after over 5 months of closure, but only for students in final year classes. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu had announced the reopening of schools for the exit students on Saturday as part of moves to further ease restriction to curb the spread of COVID-19. Our correspondent, Titilayo Aberewo, reports that the state government has also set up emergency rooms in schools for teachers and students who show COVID-19 symptoms.
After 5 months of school closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic, some school gates are now open for exit students to write their examinations. In Lagos State, some of the schools visited in Education District 5, which comprises Yaba, Surulere and Apapa axis, safety measures have been put in place. Temperature check, hand washing, social distancing is being observed, and government wants school administrators not to flout any of the safety guidelines.
The students have been at home for so long that they do want to go to school, and they know that this is the only way they can get into school, so they are obeying the laws.
This is Vetland Grammar School, Agege, one of the schools under the Education District 1, and this is one of the safety protocols that have been put in place for students in SS3s to write their WAEC exams. They've been asked to come in, wash their hands properly before going into the classrooms in order to stay safe from the virus. Within the Education District 1, the story is not different, and authorities say provision has been made for vulnerable students.
We have asked all the school managers to make provision for emergency isolation room, so that after taking the temperature and it's discovered that this child's temperature is above normal, definitely the child will be separated and will be taken to the nearest COVID screening center.
For the vulnerable students, we have plans for them. Our teachers, just as you had, have been trained for these kind of challenges, so they are well prepared to help the vulnerable students among us.
Log 2 times log 3, we give you what?
Only SS3 and technical final year students are allowed within the school premises for now, but the next 2 months will determine when other students will return to school. Titilayo Aberewo, Channels Television News.
From the commercial capital Lagos to the nation's capital Abuja, preparations are also ongoing ahead of the resumption of schools tomorrow. School authorities are putting measures in place, including cleaning of the school premises and arranging the classrooms to accommodate at least 20 students for revision exercise as well as the examinations.
Schools across the country have been shut for the last 4 months, the longest holiday. Ahead of resumption, the school authorities are making final arrangements. Cutting the grasses, cleaning the classrooms and fumigating school premises are some of the arrangements being put in place as the exit classes resume to start revision ahead of national examinations.
Right now we are clearing the compound and we are trying to make sure that the classes have been arranged, the chairs have been arranged in the classes at least 20 per students. The school has been fumigated, and with the issue of face mask, you can see with me here, and the government have promised they will do that, they will bring it for us.
According to the Federal Ministry of Education, some of the key guidelines for schools to reopen include safe distancing in classrooms, dining halls, staff rooms and office spaces, alternate attendance days per week, students to arrive and depart at different times to avoid overcrowding, classes to be divided into morning and afternoon shifts, and learners may remain in one location with teachers coming to them.
Our preparation is up to 80% of preparation because we had a pre-resumption meeting and equally we arrange our classes according to the presidential task force guideline. Right from the gate we will be standing there doing what is expected of us to do. And every student is subjected for the first time to come with his face mask. But later on, government, they are going to supply, before the end of today, government, they are going to supply everything to us.
The examinations are expected to start on August the 18th and run through November the 18th, 2020.
Staying with resumption of schools, preparations are also ongoing in other states across the country where school administrators are also putting finishing touches to the requirements for resumption. In Ogun State, for instance, the state governor has ordered a stop to the mandatory tests which initially asked returning students in boarding schools to undergo before they are allowed to return.
After months of forced closure, the gates have been ordered back open. Schools across the country have been directed by the federal government to accommodate students sitting for the WAEC examinations. However, the directive is yet to be enforced in a number of states. In Ogun State, schools are shut as the resumption plan is on hold for one more day. The state governor, Dapo Abiodun, through a statement, announced the cancellation of the 25,000 naira COVID test charge for students, which will be a relief for parents who kicked against the fee. In Kano State, the approved date by Governor Abdullahi Ganduje is August 10th, a move the Commissioner for Education says is to ensure nothing goes amiss.
We had a meeting with our parents from SS3 to brief them on the protocols and what is expected of them. And we let them know that the situation is serious and we're going to take those protocols very seriously because we're only as strong as our weakest link. So,
schools in Bayelsa State are yet to receive a date to resume, and the atmosphere here shows the mood is yet to kick in. The state chairman of the Nigerian Union of Teachers lists some criteria for resumption.
Number one, the school premises are infected by virus. The schools, all the schools should be fumigated by the government, and also sanitizers, face masks, and other necessary things, soap, and those things, so that the students and the teachers will be safe.
The date for WAEC examinations has been set for August 17th, and a high level of preparedness by schools to protect against the COVID-19 is expected. However, after such a long time away from the classrooms, what may matter to parents apart from the coronavirus will most likely be the examination results that children come home with.
Away from the pandemic, let's turn our attention to politics. The Deputy Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, Mr. Yekini Diaye, has led 4 other State House legislators to declare support for APC governorship candidates in Edo State, Pastor Osage Izeyamu, ahead of the state governorship polls. The lawmakers are amongst the 10 that were inaugurated in July 2019, while 14 others are yet to take their oath. They say they have decided to remain in the APC, on whose platform they were elected, and will not join Governor Godwin Obaseki in his new party, the PDP. Pastor Izeyamu, on his part, commended the lawmakers for their courage and promised to ensure that the state legislature gets the pride of place if he is elected governor come September the 19th.
I started my political career with APC, and I have no reason to defect to any political party. Also, when I have nothing to show to my people, there is nothing on ground for me to show to my people. It will interest you to note that I'm from Somorika. Even the Somorika I came from, I was a commissioner in this administration for 2 years. By his grace, I was voted for and I became a member of the House of Assembly. And up to today, there is no single project to show even in Somorika. So I'm wondering, how will I go back to my people to tell them that I'm defecting to another political party?
Over half of the states have been denied the representation in the House of Assembly. Even the governor's local government, where His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin, has his throne, Oredo local government, as of today, has no one in the House of Assembly. The 2 members there have been denied representation. And so the House has been operating with 10 members instead of 24. Now when the governor moved, they told a lie that the entire legislative arm have also moved with them. Today that lie, like many other lies, have been exposed. No less a person than the Deputy Speaker. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly. Some will question the status of the members there, but the reality is that they are also elected members, and the law does not allow for a vacuum. So I concede.
And when we come back, we'll show you how the PDP candidates for the Edo State governorship election, serving Governor Godwin Obaseki, kicked off his campaign. And also in part 2 after the break, mother of 27-year-old girl killed in Lagos by an unlatched container-laden truck seeks justice. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 calls for caution ahead of reopening of schools. Lagos schools reopen for exit class students after 5 months of lockdown. Other states begin preparations. Mother of 27-year-old girl killed in Lagos by an unlatched container-laden truck seeks justice. As search for COVID-19 vaccine continues, World Health Organization warns there may be never a vaccine against coronavirus. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Please subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. To politics in Edo State, the People's Democratic Party governorship campaign trail stopped at Igara in Akoko Edo local government area of the state today on a tour of 192 wards in the area to canvass support for Governor Godwin Obaseki. The chairman of the Edo State PDP Campaign Council, Mr. Dan Orbi, says Mr. Godwin Obaseki is ready to continue the good work he started 4 years ago without hindrance. The governor, on his part, promised more economic development in the areas of job creation and infrastructure, adding that government's funds will not be diverted into the hands of a few.
No man is God. We come here today to challenge the people of this local government on the need to resist one man who now want to play God in the politics of Edo State. Are you going to allow him? No. Will you allow him? No. With all of you present here, we are taking this message to every ward in Edo State. Enough is enough. You know in the Bible, when Adam ate the forbidden fruit, he fell out of favor with God. Today in Edo State, he has fallen out of favor with God and with man. In APC, he has been driven away as chairman of their party. Is that not a sign that he has fallen out of favor with God? Yes. Over the last 4 years, we have started to work for Edo people. Our emphasis is on the youths. This election is about the youths. It's about your future. We do not want a few people to sit down and tell us, give money to this person and this money to this person. We want to put more money in education. I want to finish building the technical college in Igara here. I need the money to build technical college in Igara. I want all of you youths to have work. I want to train you. Igara is lucky. You know why you're lucky? Because BBC will be history soon. We are bringing electricity to Igara. We have started the work already. We are bringing a line from Okpila to Igara.
And in Lagos, a week after a freak accident claimed the lives of some bus passengers at Ilasa bus stop in Lagos, the mother of one of the victims is seeking justice. Mrs. Chineze Ajoku, who is a widow, and mother of 27-year-old Chidima Ajoku, who died alongside her colleague while returning from work, wants the state government and other relevant agencies to see to it that unlatched container-laden trucks are prohibited on our roads. Her daughter, Chidima, died when a container fell on a bus she was traveling in on Sunday, July the 26th, 2020.
I'm not coping. I'm heartbroken. My heart is shattered in pieces. Even my children, her siblings. Sometimes I wake up, they are crying in the middle of the night. They are missing their sister. It hurts that if she was sick, it would have been better for us to cope. But just killed in cold-blooded like that, how can we just accept this thing easily? You just don't kill people on the road carelessly and everybody just folds, their arms and accept it as the norm. Let them investigate and know who the driver, is, and the owner of the vehicle, and why it's not, latched the way it's supposed to be, and bring them to book. I'm thinking of the other people. Our lives are in danger in Lagos. We are not saying that containers will not carry goods to their destinations, but let there be proper, let there be a law, so that if anybody does not keep to the law, the person will be brought to book. Let there be justice in this country for once. The blood of my daughter Chidema and the blood of the colleague Chima and whoever the driver was, if their blood is going to bring justice, that is enough. I'll have my peace. I'll have peace. So let shedding of that blood not be in vain. And then all these things will just continue as if nobody cares. Our lives are in danger in Lagos. Everywhere you see containers and everywhere. They are everywhere. And they are struggling, with smaller cars on the road. So if they have a particular time, like the way it used to be, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. or something like that, and anybody that is on the road at that time will know that this is the time that the tankers are or the trailers are on the road and adjust, But they are all on the road at the same time, and they are so reckless.
We pray solace for her and the family members of the other victims. Now we will turn our attention to our Abuja studios, where Linda Higwe is on hand with more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Lumide. We begin with the Judiciary. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed an additional 7-count charge against the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Mohammed Adoke, over alleged money laundering involving about 400 million naira. The trial of the ex-AGF, who was rearranged alongside an Abuja-based businessman, Mr. Aliyu Abubakar, before Justice Inyangeko of the Federal High Court in Abuja on June the 17th, 2020, was expected to begin today, but was stalled due to the amended charges. The initial charge contained 7 counts, with 6 of them relating to Mr. Adoke. At the resumed trial, the prosecutor, Bala Songa, informed the court of an amended charge he filed on July the 29th, which was served on all the defendants. Justice Eko, who frowned on the late filing of the amended charge, adjourned the trial till tomorrow, Tuesday, the 4th of August, on the ground that he was yet to cite the amended charges. In the former 7-count charge, the EFCC alleged that the defendants committed the money laundering offences involving over 400 million naira in Abuja on September 2013. Away from the judiciary, the Nigerian Governors Forum says it is appalled by the worsening security situation in the country in spite of all the efforts by government to end the crisis. NGF Chairman and Ekiti State Governor Mr. Kayode Fayemi mentioned this in a solidarity letter to the Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, following an attack on his convoy last week by Boko Haram insurgents. Governor Fayemi, who wrote on behalf of other state governors, says the attack epitomizes our collective vulnerability and the fragility of the country's security architecture. He also promised the NGF's commitment to support Governor Zulum's effort to rid the state of insurgents. When the news at 10 returns, South African retail chain store Shoprite announces plans to sell majority stake in its Nigeria subsidiary. That's in business news. Join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Abuja. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has given out 41 cars to judges in the state's judiciary, a gesture he says will enhance the administration of justice. The vehicles were handed out in a ceremony in Port Harcourt, the state capital. According to Governor Wike, his administration will continue to support the judicial arm of government to ensure the smooth administration of justice.
It's a gathering to witness the presentation of official vehicles to magistrates and judges in the Rivers State Judiciary, a move by Governor Nyesom Wike's administration to create a right environment for the dispensation of justice in the state.
Ever since the assumption of office and his first tenure and this second tenure, His Excellency has crammed the Rivers State Judiciary with historic landmarks, and today, barely 4 years after, His Excellency has treated judges to another largesse or generosity with the provision of the state-of-the-art cars to us.
The state government recounts some of the achievements recorded in terms of improved welfare for the judiciary within the last 5 years.
We implemented significant policy and institutional changes, renovated existing courthouses, built and opened more courts, automated the case filing and handling processes. We are gathered here to again witness two fundamental things we have achieved in this direction. First, to present the SUV to each and every judge serving in the state. And secondly, to formally notify the public and the legal community that we have completed and taken possession of 20 purpose-built luxurious and fully furnished judges' residential quarters, which was started in 2018 in fulfillment of our policy of providing decent, lifelong accommodation for all state judges.
With these incentives in place, some responsibilities are also expected of the judiciary arm in return.
Courage, commitment, and integrity requires you to be fair to everyone that seeks justice before the courts you preside, because the nature of your work grants you neither room nor privilege to choose and pick which case to handle.
And to the highlight of the event, the official handover of the vehicles. For the Rivers State government, the judiciary must ensure qualitative justice administration as well as transparency and efficiency in the discharge of its duties.
That's all from Abuja. Back to you, Lumide.
Thank you, Linda. President Muhammadu Buhari has sent a letter personally signed by him to the family of the late publisher and businessman Samaila Issa Funtua, describing his demise as a major national loss. In the letter he wrote in Hausa, the president told the bereaved wife, Hajia Hawa, the children, and the entire family members that Issa Funtua's loss was not theirs alone, but that of the entire country. The president says Malam Funtua was of great assistance to him and his administration because he helped in many ways to strengthen the governments and the country before his demise. The president's letter reads in part that Nigerians of all shades and background have nothing but kind words for him. He was reputed throughout his life for his kindness, generosity, and support for public causes, big and the not so big. To some company reports, Seplat Petroleum Development Company, PLC, has marked its 10th anniversary in Lagos with an inaugural energy summit aimed at discussing business sustainability and energy transitions. The event, which had most participants via an online platform, also witnessed the handover of the company pioneer CEO, Mr. Austin Avuru, to Mr. Roger Brown.
A summit, an energy summit, is launched here today.
Rather than pop some wines, hold some colorful assembled reception and lavish ceremony, Seplat PLC, arguably Nigeria's most successful indigenous oil and gas company, is hosting this inaugural energy summit to celebrate its 10th anniversary.
To do this business and remain relevant and sustainable for the long term, we have to do it in such a way that the fossil fuel will be done in a cleaner way, and that's why the Seplat gas story is key. It's also very important for us to appreciate the impact of what the climate narrative is now doing to our business.
Themed Business Sustainability and Strategic Leadership in Africa, Seplat intends to add their voice through the business community globally, participate and contribute to the climate change narrative, environment safety and governance initiative in the business world. It's about global energy transition, climate change, global energy market, post-COVID, low crude oil production costs, corporate governance, renewable energy. The robust panelists scattered across the globe made spot-on contributions.
Fiscal sustainability in Africa will increase and improve. There will be positive for growth and wide acceptance of clean energy and renewable energy sources.
Part of the anniversary event is the handing over of baton from Austin Avuru, the outgoing CEO, to Roger Brown, the new CEO. He shows us part of the strengths of the company's success.
We really didn't have anything to learn from or copy from. We're not operating in an environment where you already see a lot of corporates where governance is taken for granted. So every time we looked over our shoulders, we're not seeing anybody to copy from. So we had to build internally and build all on our own and set examples and set the pace and set milestones for ourselves.
From 7 years on the saddle as the CFO, Roger now wears the cap.
Please continue to support us through partnerships, through our 8 joint ventures we have, joint venture in ANO in the gas side, and give us your support in completing transactions and approvals and legislation that's very clear.
Among the consensus here is that sustainability will make you a darling to investors. Also, ensuring that the current energy mix is rejigged for a greater lean to renewables for an efficient energy transition.
To the aviation industry, Air Peace Airline has sacked some of its pilots over a disagreement in salaries and allowances due to the economic downturn occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. The airline said in order to survive the effect of the pandemic, it had to restructure its operations, leading to the reduction of its workforce. In a statement issued by Air Peace Management, the carrier said it had to take a very painful but rightful decision in the circumstances the airline has found itself as a result of the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic on its operations and financial health to terminate the employment of some of its pilots. And now for business news, here's Teniola Shobowale.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. ShopRite Group has announced plans to initiate a formal process for a potential sale of all or a majority stake of its retail supermarkets in Nigeria. The South African grocery retailer, in its operational and voluntary trading update released today, says its planned discontinued operation after about 15 years is due to approaches from potential local investors as it seeks to expand its food retail businesses in Nigeria. Reacting to this development, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf, says the planned sale will send a negative signal about what is happening to the country's economy to potential investors. To company matters now, cement manufacturer Boa Cement has announced a 12.7% increase in its half-year revenue at 101.2 billion naira, up from the 89.9 billion naira reported in the corresponding year. According to a statement by the company, its profit before tax also rose by 9.8% to 39.1 billion naira, while profit after tax surged by 13.7% to 34.8 billion naira. Similarly, the company's earnings per share edged up from 90 kobo to 1 naira 3 kobo, with its cement volume up to 2,463 kilotons. Equities transactions at the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended Monday's trading session in the green territory, with more than 83% increase in total volume of shares traded today by investors. Ekaite Afia has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The stock market begins the new month with positive sentiments, defying some sell pockets of holiday-induced profit-taking just before the Eid holiday. Now, no doubt you can say investors are still trying to find their way around some fundamentally sound equities, given the fact that a string of earnings results released so far have helped keep the key indicators in the green, particularly stocks from the industrial, banking, and consumer goods sectors. Now, at the close of Monday's trading, the market's main index rose further by 0.25% from its last close, while total value of listed equities is just a few steps closer to the 13 trillion naira level. And these were largely attributed to gains from Flour Mill and Boa Cement. Now, meanwhile, traders say they remain optimistic that the market will sustain the uptrend as the month of August is just beginning, and more earnings results are still expected to be released in the NSE in the days to come. Thank you for joining us for the Stock Market Report. I'm Ekaite Afia.
Thanks, Ekaite. Meanwhile, on the global scene, the shares of Microsoft and Apple rallied the Nasdaq Composite Index as U.S. markets ended the first trading day of the week with strong gains. But let's find out how other major markets closed the day. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Olumide.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10. World Health Organization warns there may never be a silver bullet for coronavirus. Plus, more stories from our London studio on Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The World Health Organization says despite hopes for a COVID-19 vaccine, there may never be a silver bullet for coronavirus, and the road to normality will be long. The WHO Director General, Tedros Ghebreyesus, calls on all nations to rigorously enforce all health measures, saying face masks should become a symbol of solidarity around the world. Here's Simon Pusey with more stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Leaked data shows the number of coronavirus deaths in Iran is nearly triple what the government says it is. The government's own records show that almost 42,000 people died with the virus up to the 20th of July versus 14,405 reported by its own health ministry. The number of people known to be infected is also almost double the official figures. The official numbers would make Iran the worst hit country in the Middle East. Doctors with direct knowledge of the matter say the Iranian health ministry has been under pressure from security and intelligence bodies inside Iran to ensure the number of cases and deaths remains low. Australia's second biggest city, Melbourne, already under night curfew, has announced fresh restrictions on industries as it steps up desperate efforts to contain the spread of the resurgent virus. From Wednesday night, Melbourne will close retail, some manufacturing and administrative businesses as part of a 6-week lockdown, which is expected to impact 250,000 jobs. Victoria has reported 429 new virus cases and 13 more deaths, which is its second highest daily death toll.
Oh, it's incredibly difficult.
Meanwhile, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced that trans-Tasman travel is a long way off in response to the increase in infections in Victoria. Both countries had previously said international travel between them could restart as soon as September. Namibia has announced that schools will close for 28 days as virus infections have increased throughout the country. The closure comes after parents and teachers had threatened to demonstrate if schools remained open despite the rising number of new infections. The president has also tightened the rules prohibiting drinking in bars and taverns last week. The country has so far recorded more than 2,200 cases of COVID-19. The US giant Microsoft has confirmed that it is continuing talks to purchase the US operations of the Chinese-owned video sharing app TikTok. Microsoft has said it is looking to purchase the TikTok service in the US, in Canada, Australia and New Zealand and would operate in those markets. The tech giant hopes to conclude discussions with TikTok's parent firm ByteDance by September the 15th. The announcement comes after US President Donald Trump said he might ban TikTok from operating in the US due to the Chinese security threat. 2 American astronauts have splashed down as the first commercial crewed mission to the International Space Station returned to Earth.
Splashdown.
The SpaceX Dragon capsule carrying Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken has come down in the Gulf of Mexico. The touchdown marks the first crewed American water landing since the final outing of an Apollo command model 45 years ago. The Islamic State group has said it was behind a high-profile attack on a central prison in the eastern Afghan city of Jalalabad that saw hundreds of prisoners try to flee. The attack began on Sunday evening when car bombs were detonated at the prison's entrance by gunmen. It continued through the night and into Monday morning, with the IS militants battling security forces. At least 21 people have been killed, that's according to a spokesman for the province. In Spain, firefighters have been battling a wildfire in the Madrid region that was sparked by a motorcycle accident, that's according to local media. Highways have been cut off and scattered houses in the region have been evacuated as a preventative measure. 16 crews as well as 3 aircraft have been deployed to tame the blaze around the sparsely populated Robledo de Chavela region, around 40 kilometers northwest of Madrid. A group of 78 migrants rescued by a Maltese armed forces patrol boat in the central Mediterranean have landed in Valletta. Some carried babies as they were brought ashore, checked and photographed on the dockside before being driven away on buses. Last week, hundreds of migrants crossed the Mediterranean in small boats. Many also landed on the southern Italian island of Lampedusa in a wave of arrivals, straining already overcrowded holiday centres. Thousands of households in northern and eastern parts of Thailand have been inundated by a flash flood after tropical storm Sinlaku hit the country, collapsing houses and damaging rice fields. A total of 18 provinces have been hit by the storm, which has left 2 people dead so far and has destroyed over 1,300 households. And finally, France is bracing for another blistering heat wave this week with temperatures of up to 40 degrees Celsius to the delight of the country's famous Gironde salt producers, for whom more sun means more business. Some of the world's finest sea salt comes from the flats, which lie in the western part of the country on the borders of Brittany, and local producers have been cheering what could be an excellent year. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. And now it's time for sports news with Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Olumide. The Confederation of African Football CAF Emergency Committee has approved the restart of the Champions League with semi-final games returning in September on a home and away basis. The first leg will be played on September the 25th and 26th in Morocco, with the return leg holding on October the 2nd and 3rd in Egypt. FIFA Deputy General Secretary Alasdair Bell insists there is no factual basis whatsoever for criminal investigation of President Gianni Infantino. Bell describes the decision by Swiss authorities to open criminal proceedings against its president last week as absurd. Infantino, who has denied any wrongdoing, will be speaking to the media in the next few days to personally defend himself. Real Madrid Football Club intensified training at their Valdebebas base in the Spanish capital as they prepare for their second leg round of 16 UEFA Champions League match against Manchester City. The newly crowned Spanish champions, who will be without their skipper, Sergio Ramos, trailed 2-1 following the first leg, which was played at the Santiago Bernabeu on February the 26th. And Serie A club Cagliari have appointed Eusebio Di Francesco as manager. The Sardinian outfit said that Di Francesco had signed a 2-year deal. The former Sassuolo and Roma boss, sacked in October by Sampdoria, replaces Walter Zenga. A former world number 1 Andy Murray says players need assurance that they would not face mandatory quarantine upon returning to Europe from the US Open before traveling to New York amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Murray, a 3-time Grand Slam winner, is willing to take the travel risk as he missed playing in big events but wants all related issues sorted out. And that's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
And the main news again. Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 today called for caution ahead of the reopening of schools for students in exit classes tomorrow. Also today, schools in Lagos State reopened for exit class students after 5 months of lockdown, with state government giving assurances of strict adherence to COVID-19 guidelines. And the World Health Organization today warned that though efforts are ongoing to get a vaccine for COVID-19, there may never be a vaccine in the end. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide McCall.